Welcome to another edition of the IPA Interview Series, and I'm very honored, Rick. I'm the only one who calls you Ricky, but it's Rich Benier. I'm honored that I was asked to interview you for this series. It's a wonderful testimony. I feel great about it. We've been friends since, I suspect, 1972, maybe 73 at the latest.
Yeah.
However, I did observe you as a young kid. I think we were there 16 times at Polkabration, Dick Pillar's Polkabration, which was a phenomenal East Coast exhibition and polka festival. And I remember you from the bandstand only because you stood out. And that aspect was that you were a blonde, long hair, surfer type kid. And I told Roger at that time, the leader of the Golden Brass, I said, that's somebody, or we should have someone like that with us. So do you remember that time at all? Back in, that probably was 1970.
I can remember going to the interview or audition as so-called, but prior to that, I don't remember too much of that. No.
So you don't remember the first time you saw the Golden Brass?
Oh, I remember when I saw the Golden
Well, that's what I'm
Brass.
referring to.
Oh, yes, yes.
You see, I'm referring to the first time that I saw you with the long hair, blonde, surfer type of guy, thin as a bean, 17 years old, with 7 chicks behind him. It was a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it was a
Now
good
today you only have one behind you, which is a wonderful tribute as well. Nevertheless, do you remember that event at all?
Well, I remember the first time I saw the Golden Brass for sure was in Colchester, Connecticut at the Polish Club. And it was unbelievable. The first time I ever seen 2 accordion players together, and then to observe the sound that you guys were producing, and Bill Supter on the accordion, which captivated me. And that's where it all started with the Golden Brass for me.
So in 1970, how long were you playing accordion up to that point?
Well, I can only say, I mean, on the bandstand wise, I started when I was 13.
Okay.
So
First formal lessons
well,
on the accordion?
was when I was 9.
Okay.
9 years old, I started playing the accordion.
Yeah.
And that was all because of all the Polish picnics and weddings and anniversaries that I attended because of my mom. My mom was from Massachusetts, Webster, Mass., and her mother's side was all Polish. The last name of her mother was Popieski, so you take it from there. And again, when I heard Polish music being played and observed the accordion, it captivated me.
So it was quite an experience. And so that's how you perhaps were inspired? Would you use that word?
Yes,
Yeah.
That's how it all began.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the following years, I saw you with Dick Pillar on the bandstand. And that's when Roger and I spoke about it and said, you know, it wouldn't be bad to have some new blood in the band. And Roger called you and asked you to come and meet with us.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So what were your impressions at that time?
I was so excited just to be able to come and talk with you guys, never mind yet to actually start playing with the new brass. That was a highlight of one of my big highlights of my life, really was. Because I was captivated by that band. Everything that I wanted to do was right in that band, except not knowing that you didn't have no music and have to learn and memorize all this stuff. And in my ear, being so-so, and then had to learn to hear the keys and all, and that was a challenging part.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, like I told you earlier, along with changing my accordion shake, you know, from the way I studied with one way out and then having to bring it and change it to pushing in. It was a big change for me.
Well, that's a technique that you developed with the brass.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
as for the no music, no written music with the brass, some background on that was, and I think you know that, but Roger and Supta at one time, or when they had discussed it way back with the Golden Brass, now Karl Hoynaski, the leader and co-leader rather of the Golden Brass, we had music initially. But then when we turned to the new brass, Roger and Supta, or Billy Supta in particular, the accordion player, suggested that we try to follow Chicago style. So we mixed the Eastern style, and we slowed down the beat and with no music. And we thought Lush and all the big guys that we emulated out of Chicago, we decided to go with no music. So you had to learn the songs or you get the feeling. So tell me, how was it troublesome for you to get there?
Yes, in the beginning it was, because like I had just mentioned, my ear or sense of hearing the keys and catching on to everything was kind of hard for me in the beginning because of me being so used of playing with music. You know, the music becomes a crutch, and then when you don't have it there no more, and you're trying to understand playing by ear, it was a little tough. It was tough in the beginning.
Understood.
Yeah.
But I think that was a great development point for you.
Oh, that was a big learning experience for
Yeah.
me. Big learning.
And we do have to clarify that you came to the new brass 2 times.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
You came as a 17, 18-year-old, and then you went with another band. Who did you go with at that point? Do you recall?
Well, when I was with you the first time, I had left Dick Pillar's band.
Right.
And I ended up going back to Dick Pillar. And the accordion player that was playing with Dick at that time switched. I think he went with you, and that was Eddie Bajer. I think I'm wrong.
We needed a second accordion.
Right. And I think
Eddie Bajer came
was
in.
the one that came, and I went back to Dick Pillar.
Yeah.
I think that's the way it went.
And then a couple years later, you came back a second time to the brass.
Right.
And that was a phenomenal time, I would think. Do you have any feelings about that second trip or second tenure with the brass?
No, my whole,
Now you were a seasoned musician.
right.
Had to be. You knew the guys.
Yeah.
You knew how we operated. We may have, when we were young, we were crazy, and we dealt with the popularity, which we brought you in, and you increased our popularity, in my opinion.
Oh, I'm glad I could just contribute a little bit.
Well,
to the
I mean, it
brass.
was a lot,
Yeah.
and it just worked out well. Are there any special moments, let's say the second time around initially, that perhaps might stand out on any point?
The biggest thing that stands out with me is the crowds that we were able to draw, to draw in. And Michigan being a big state, it was incredible to see the people turn out, and how many times we would go back to Michigan. The excitement with the people, you could feel it. It was intense, and it made you want to push more and more and more. And playing alongside you guys was awesome. I mean, you and Roger, I mean, when you laid down the beat was there, and it was an awesome rhythm. You know, the old saying, I don't know if I should say this or not, but the old saying is, when people come to dance, you got to hear the lead parts, the musical part, but the bottom line is the rhythm, and that's what they're dancing to. And if you give them a solid rhythm, and they're having a ball with it, that's all that matters. And you guys could really produce a good rhythm between you and Roger, and then I just fell into it,
Well, Roger, in my view, was a phenomenal drummer. He was like a metronome. He had his own style, and he developed even more, just like you did, just like I did. And so Roger and I really worked out very well. I always kept one eye on Roger's drum beat,
Bass drum. Yeah.
and he would keep one eye on me, so it was a mutual thing. Now you were up front next to me with the music and produced a wall of music. Would you agree with that term?
Oh yes, it was a wall. It was like a train. The locomotive motor was running, and it was just so powerful. It was a big train.
It was. I agree, and it was great times, and Roger and I often talked. Of course, we talked a lot more during the week just to make sure that we were ready for the following week. He did all the bookings, and a good tribute that you had also, that you were loyal, you were there, you showed up in the polka field. Once you settle on someone, you've got to have the loyalty with someone. And you had that trait, in my view, that added to the brass, and it made you a great character. And I think the brass, my feeling is that you developed immensely the second time around when you came to the brass. Your accordion, your fundamentals were always there. You had mentioned to me you started playing accordion at 13. So it takes a while to get into the lessons and the fundamentals, the fingering, the chords, etc. But it takes practice, loyalty, dedication. Thank God for your mom and dad that were there. Probably bought you your first accordion when you were 12, 13.
Well, actually, like I said earlier, I started at 9, and I had a 12 bass accordion, which I still have the same one.
Great.
I kept it. I
Cool.
kept it as a memento.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it displayed upstairs in one of the rooms. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Interesting story. I never heard that one. Yeah.
And my dad, was the backbone of me. He would go to every lesson. During the week, every day, my practices, he would sit with me and listen. He had a heck of an ear. He played the guitar and harmonica with a little attachment on the guitar, and he would sing country and western. So he had a good ear. When I made mistakes on the accordion, he'd go, hey, what's that all about? What's that all? Sometimes we would go at it, and I'd get upset. And particularly one time I told him, what do you know? And we got mad, and I said, I don't want to play no more. And he pulled the accordion right off my back, and he says, okay, it's over. Put it away. So he put it away, and don't touch it. And within a half hour, 45 minutes later, I'm coming back and I started practicing more again. But he was the backbone for me, my beginning years, many years actually, till he passed away.
Yeah. That's a good testimony. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, mom and dads are always good for that. They're Polish heritage on your mom's side. And your dad, through marriage, and he knew the family, and he may have had a French name, but he had a Polish heart. Would you believe that?
Yeah. They would, like I said, that's where he met my mother. It was in Webster at a Polish dance, He went with some friends, and that's where he met Mom.
Well, Webster, Massachusetts at one time was a very large, as they would say in Webster, a large Polish community. There really was, So, and that's great. Let's go forward a little bit more. Then you had left us and went to Louis.
Yes, I did.
And that was a great experience with Louis. Let's talk about that a little bit. Louis was a sensation in the field. He was a great personality. Yulcha was right beside him, very supportive.
Yeah.
I'll let you speak about that a little bit.
Yeah. If anyone could captivate an audience, it was Louis. It was incredible to be on the stage and the way he would perform and get the people like right in his hands, and his one thing that he would always do is yell out, "Whoa," and the whole place would respond back. his knowledge of music was really top shelf because he taught me things. I mean, I came from a good band, like were you guys, but he taught me a lot more, even with rhythm, the placement of the offbeats and the separation of everything in the rhythm track. Especially when I went with him, I had to play an Iorio accordion, because he wanted me to play the piano with the left hand. So that in itself is separation.
You mean play a melody on your left bass hand?
No, play the offbeat of a piano. Bing, bang, bing, bang, bing,
I
bang,
see.
bang.
Yeah.
And and that accordion, again, was not what I thought I was going to be doing. I thought I was just going to play a regular accordion until he asked me to do that. So I would have to go home, and he gave me a metronome. And I went home with a metronome, which you know what it is.
Sure.
It's click, click. It set the rhythm and go. And I would go downstairs in my rec room and just sit there and practice the left hand with the metronome. So that thing would be going click, click, and my left hand's going bing, bang, bing, bang, bing, bang. For hours, I would just do it to make sure I was putting the rhythm where I had to with the offbeats.
There again, the loyalty and dedication that you had.
I wanted to do my best.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Now, Louis was sensational in the business. Played a lot of gigs every year. The Yule Show with him. Let's talk about his bus. Did you have good experiences on that bus?
Always did. Always did. He was the driver, and Yulcha would always have coolers of food and beer or soda for us as soon as we got on the bus. And the bunks and everything were nice in there, so we got to sleep pretty much, and TV, and so we were living a pretty good life.
I agree.
Good life.
I recall our bus that we bought an old Greyhound bus and converted it into a motorhome somewhat.
Yeah. It looked like Louis' bus too. It looked like a brother
no,
sister of it.
Well, no. Louis' bus was a 37,
Yeah.
Which was round in the back, if you recall.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It was also not as wide. This was a 4104 GM bus that the Greyhound used to use all the time, which was wider, faster because it wasn't gasser, it was diesel versus gasser with Louis. I think he may have.
His was diesel too.
He changed that motor.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, I know
was
that.
a diesel.
Louis was a neighbor when I was, we lived not too far apart.
Yeah.
And I used to stop over there just when he was washing his bus with a toothbrush. That's what happens when you own a bus like that, and he was very proud of it. But Louis, great personality. Yulcha was there, treated the guys well.
Oh, very well, very well.
Yeah.
She was good to us, real good.
Perhaps you can mention a highlight where perhaps might have been the hottest spot that you hit, the most memorable place you hit. He drew big crowds, but at that time, a lot of the bands did. But he in particular, because he, like you say, he was a great entertainer and captivated his audience. So what I'm getting at is, let's talk about perhaps which venue was momentous for you.
I would say Hunter Mountain, New York was one of the big highlights, because we'd be the opening band for Bobby Vinton.
Ah.
And we would be there for 3 days. They'd put us up, and every day we would be the opening act for him. And again, what I just had mentioned, the way he could captivate, the crowds were phenomenal. I can't even explain how many people were there. The big tent, and it was just wall-to-wall people everywhere you looked. And once he would start and get them in his grasp, and again he would just go whoa, and this whole place is whoa and right back. So by the time we were getting ready to end, and did end, and he would go, whoa, and we'd finish up, and we'd walk off the stage, and the next thing you know, here comes Bobby Vinton. He walks right up on the stage and goes, whoa, because he's already got the people eating out of his hand because of Louis. It was incredible. It was incredible.
Yeah.
It really was.
You had mentioned to me an incident on stage at Hunter Mountain.
Yeah.
And speak about that one more time.
Well, we were playing again on the stage at Hunter Mountain, and our bass player, Charlie, he was the kind of guy who would always jump around, you know, weaving and bobbing, doing his thing. And one time he jumped up, and when he jumped up, his left foot went right through the stage. And he couldn't stop playing, so he's got his foot halfway through the stage, and he's still doing his thing. That was pretty funny. It was. So, and he didn't know what to do, so till we ended, and then I helped him get out of it.
And he wasn't a heavy guy. Charlie was not a heavy guy.
He was a thin
You know, I could see myself going through the floor, but he was never a heavy guy, so that was odd. It was just a weak spot in the floor for him.
Yeah.
I don't recall right now. Maybe you do. If there was anybody that went through any floor with the brass, but your experience with the brass, if anything, was your biggest experience probably was rooming with me.
Well, we won't go into too many of those stories, will we?
I would agree. But you were a great roommate, and I had a hard time waking up, and I appreciate that you used to wake me up and at least get me dressed up and get going for the gigs. We were, it was pretty good. And then you were with us when Freddie Mitch was driving?
Yeah.
And let's talk about some of the trips we took. We would travel to Minnesota. I mean, from Chicago to Minnesota, sometimes straight to Minnesota, hit Chicago on the way back. And that would be a 3 or 4 night weekend, maybe a 5-day weekend. And coming back, you never knew what time we would be getting home. But let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, that was before Freddie came into the band. We were doing
Right.
it, you know. Once he came into the band, we never had to worry about that anymore. I mean, we got home. He was nonstop, and we were safe with him. But prior to that, sometimes we'd leave the job, and of course we'd fall asleep in the motorhome or.
Well, we would fall asleep within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Get in the van after the gig, crawl in there, maybe change before we get into the van. All the equipment's in there. Within 10 minutes, I know I was out.
Oh, yeah.
And then Roger would be driving. Would tell us a little more. I'll let you.
Yeah,
this is your interview.
Well, we were going home, and we'd be falling asleep, and I would wake up to see where we were, only to see that we went only a short distance. And we still had hours to go, and I'm going like, oh my God. What happened was Roger got tired, and he pulled over and fell asleep too.
A wise move, knowing that how dangerous.
That was a very safe move.
It was a wise move because we've had colleagues in the business that have had accidents, and it's a sad state of affairs. But Roger was wise enough, at least. Now,
but I never made it to work the next day. I can tell you that.
Well, luckily that I think we were blessed. Even when we were younger and had jobs, it seems all musicians react the same way. No matter what they do over the weekend, Monday morning they're there to work, or whenever they are able to get there, and their firm says, okay, you can, you're okay to come in at 10 o'clock. I don't know. Yeah. But I was very blessed, and I suspect you were too. There were days that we couldn't make it back, no doubt about it. Minnesota is a 17-hour, I think, or 19-hour trip. Grueling. And in a van, you sleep in that position with your head down. That's why it's so pleasurable when we finally had our bus, and we had, like Louis, we had bunks so you can sleep horizontally. And there was a John on the bus, of course, and we didn't have to stop as much, and so on and so forth. And a van, it's rough. It shortens one's life. And a lot of musicians quit because they get burnt out, mainly because not the playing. Would you agree that it's not the playing, it's the grueling life?
Traveling is tough.
Yeah.
It is. And the average person doesn't really realize that, what's involved with those hours. They'll tell you, oh man, I know you drove an X amount, but they don't experience how rough it is. You drive in and you got to continue on and drive either home for a long distance or another spot. It's brutal.
Well,
but it's rewarding when you get there and you see the crowd and you enjoy what you're doing. Thank God for that. That's what makes it all worthwhile.
I recall that oftentimes, even in a van, there was very little room. But we would go over songs in that little place. And of course, did you do the same in Louis' bus? Create songs? Did you go over songs? Did you play in the bus?
No.
Okay.
We would have rehearsals in his studio.
Yeah.
But with you guys, even when recording. I mean, look at when we were traveling to Ohio to record in Wham, and Weasel was with us then, and we're writing songs as we're going to the studio. That was incredible. And they turned out to be good songs, We had no idea of it at all.
Well, we were very creative. But you mentioned Weasel. Let's talk about Weasel, because if I understand correctly, Weasel, as a young kid, and you grew up together at least.
Well, we lived in the same city, Norwich, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And
he was in your first band.
But he was with Pillar. Dick Pillar. And when I was playing with Dick Pillar, he was playing with Dick Pillar. And actually, I was driving, and he didn't have the driver's license. I would pick him up and bring him over to Dick's house.
Before Dick Pillar, you had your own. Did you set up your own band?
Well, yeah. Again, when I was 14, I took over a band that I started with who asked me, I should say, to play when I was 13. They were a 60s band more and older music. Yeah. And the drummer who was the leader, I should say, went into the service when I was like 14. And I thought that was the perfect time to take the band over. And I changed musicians and I became a polka band. And that band was going good, and it was under the name of The Aces, which was the band's name prior to me having it. And I would go to different dances, and being one in particular band I would go to see locally was Bob Ucaccioni and the Happy Travelers.
Right.
And they were playing a lot in Norwich area at a Polish club there, like monthly. So I would go and watch them, and I got to meet him, of course, Bob, and we were talking. He says, you got to change the name of the band. I said, why? He says, you got to give it a little bit more life. He says, like Jolly Aces. And that's what it became, the Jolly Aces, And then I stayed with that band for a couple of years until I got to go with Dick Pillar.
Good.
And then later in life, I was with you and left with Pillar and went back to you. But I think before I went back to you, I started another band called Sounds of Chicago. And Ned Shahada was one of my horn players. And it was a good band, but again, playing with the brass was where I wanted to be again. So that's when I came back to you guys, really, was then.
Could you talk about or bring up any wackiest story or memories in your entire history? Even currently, you're with a phenomenal band, Dennis Polisky and the Maestro's Man. You've been with them for how many years?
It's 23 years now. 23.
Wow, that's almost as old as I am.
Okay.
That's a long time, 23 years. And it's been a great tenure with you, and you guys produce great music.
Thank you.
So either with current band, with Dennis Polisky and the Maestro's Men, and or with Pillar or with Louis, perhaps you can think of a most wackiest time, night, moment that will hit you right now and tell us about it. Okay, I guess you can't talk about it. Which is acceptable, but I know you've got other stories.
It's hard to always, to pinpoint something like that, wacky. I mean, again, Charlie, that thing was the wackiest I thought could ever happen, to see that kid go through the floor like that. I mean, rough time was wacky time was when I was with Louis. We got in that accident with the bus. That was pretty scary.
I vaguely remember that. Maybe you can talk about it for just a little bit.
We were on our way, I think, to Pottstown, Pennsylvania, I think it was. And we were on the pike, and a flatbed trailer truck was in front of us. And some car in front of that, something went wrong. I don't know what went wrong, actually. And the truck had to lock up, and Louis had to lock up. And we slid right into the back of the flatbed trailer. And of course it was serious, and thank God, Louis had only a little distance between him and the steering wheel because it pushed in. And that's, I don't know if that's wacky, but it was really scary.
Well, it's memorable, if anything. That was a serious, a serious event.
We didn't play that job. We definitely went back home after that. But God was with him because nothing happened, But that was pretty scary, and that was wacky. If we would have been in a van, who knows what took place? I don't know if we'd be around.
Yeah, thank God everything worked out well.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your pursuits in the polka field. Why did you pursue polka music as opposed to your 60s band when you were your first ace, the Aces? Your first band.
I just, in my heart, it was Polish music I wanted to play. Polkas and the barracks and waltzes. I loved it so much. Even when I took lessons, my instructor saw that I had lost some interest in learning, and he knew how I loved polka music. He would start giving me a polka or an barrack or a waltz as part of my lesson, which was in my heart, the Polish music, and it brought me right back to to want to learn again, and my interest was right back up 100%.
Well, you've developed through your pursuits. You're a great accordion player, in my opinion, now.
Oh, thank you much.
But
I try.
It does. You don't have to try any longer. You're a master at it, in my opinion. And you've developed over the years, and that's what's so very nice. Not everybody can do that. And your particular instrument. Let's talk about your accordion in particular. I know that it's a Giuletti, a fine instrument, and you knew that instrument well, but you wanted to tweak it. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Tweak the Giuletti. I didn't really have to tweak the Giuletti. How it all came about was I was playing Excelsior, and it was a good accordion, and I have nothing against Excelsiors. But again, hearing you guys, the Golden Brass, with Bill Supta, who used the Giuletti, the supermodel, it was what a sound came out of it, and I knew right then and there, that's what I wanted. and I ordered one. But the funny part about that also is the one I had ordered originally, which was the supermodel, I couldn't afford. So the music store, I had to order one. Well, I should say, from the music store, I said to them, listen, then, well, can I order one model less down from the supermodel? And he said, yeah, you can. That one's in your price range. I said, okay. So that's the one I ordered. 3-4 weeks go by, the phone rings. It's the owner of the music store, and he called, like I said, and he says, the accordion's in. Come on down. So when I got there, he says, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, this is not the accordion you ordered. And I was like, what do you mean? He says, Giulio, who was the owner of Giulietti, sent you the supermodel, which was the one that Billy was using. And I said, he did? Yes, he wants to make these accordions known in this area, so he's giving it to you for the price of the model that was less. And he said, just make sure you don't tell him what you bought it for. So I said, oh, okay. And I got cufflinks with it. I got Giulietti tie clips, and I had gotten so much with this accordion, and it was the sound like I wanted to hear. It just cuts. The accordion cuts. It's such sharp and piercing sound. It just, produces a wealth of sound.
Did you give it back to Giulio to redo the reeds and put a higher tone on it?
No, I never did.
Oh, you never did?
I never had to. I mean, I would just bring it to be tuned occasionally in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
At this place of Accordion Connections, it was called.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I ever did. I never had to change. If a reed blew out or the flap didn't work properly, I'd have to replace it. And
they obviously knew what to put in there to reproduce that sound.
Yeah.
Very good. How about, let's talk about the current band now. You guys are traveling, perhaps you've backed down a little bit on your traveling, and I suspect it's because we're all getting older, and it's a grueling job on the road. You guys are still traveling in a van for economics, but you're not traveling the distances frequently like years ago we used to do.
No.
So let's talk about the Maestro's men. You get dynamic musicians in there. They've been loyal to you with the band, to Dennis, for a long time. You've developed a great sound. What do you think is the key to your success or the Maestro's success? How do you think you've contributed to some of that success? Honestly, we've got to talk about it. Don't be modest. I mean, this is the time that you got to tell me.
No.
I could tell you.
I don't know. I don't know. I just do my thing, and I hope I'm doing the best that I can. I don't know the way to say it. What to say there other than I just try to play the best I can, and I'm hoping I'm giving them what they want to hear, and it seems like it works. And the guys I play with, we all just like brothers, and we understand each other's ways, and it just gels, and we feed off of each other. We really do, and it makes each of us better.
Understood. I know what that feels like. One of the discussions way back with the brass and Supta was that we always had good chemistry with the players in the brass. Mm-hmm. When you came in, you were the youngest, and yet you fit in so nicely. Again, it's the chemistry and how you interact between your fellow musicians on the bandstand. Pardon me. You don't even have to talk about it, but you can feel what's going to be coming up, and let's talk about the feelings with your guys, with Dennis Polisky's Maestro's men.
it's what you just had said. I mean,
It's a chemistry.
yeah, it's
You
the
don't
heart.
have to talk about it.
No, no.
You have the feeling.
Yeah, it just falls in place. I can't really think of anything or any other way to say that. And Jackie's like you, the driver of me, and telling me, you don't think so much, just play it, and you'll be all right. And I can go back to the days again when we were in the studio recording, and you were the one that really gave me the drive to be better and work at doing the solos better. And you drove me to my style. And Jackie does that in his own way with me too.
Good.
And then Kenny on drums. It's just again, Jackie and Kenny is like you and Roger, and then I feel comfortable the same way as I did when I was with the brass, with them guys,
That's a nice
solid
testimony.
rhythm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And another thing is, today's world, and I hate to say this, polkas are not what they were years ago. I have to, you know that just as well, and I'm sure the people all know that. And we want it to be, but it's not quite as what it was years ago. I mean, the crowds, the younger people, I wish they would come around more. But it seems like they're not as many as interested as when our generations were young,
Well, everything today, there's a lot of diversions.
Right.
Everybody's got other things to do.
Yeah.
The folks that used to follow Dick Pillar, the folks that used to follow the brass, the folks who followed Louis, and today, all the folks that follow the Maestro's men. Would you agree that now they're grandparents? They are becoming driver's limousine service to their grandchildren and enjoy it. You're a grandfather yourself.
Yes, I am.
And you get together with your family a lot. I know this. Let's talk about that. You make it a family thing for breakfast on Sundays or whenever.
Whenever I can do things like that, yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm not on the road playing, we are together. I mean, water skiing or tubing, we're always doing things like this together. I love the family, and again, when we were younger, when they were younger, I should say, I wasn't able to be home a lot, so I missed a lot of their growing up.
Understood.
But you try to make it up, and you do the best you can. And I'm very fortunate that it's still there for me because it hasn't changed. Our love is great, and we continue on, and we have a tight family. And I think that was from the way I was brought up too. And I'd like to go back to Dennis's with the band. As I was talking about the polkas, the way things are, we do a lot of Oktoberfest now. And it's like an old-time beer festival. And the crowds are phenomenal. And we've been doing a lot more of them. And we have a good selection of American music, too, that we mixed the music up. And I think that really contributes to how we get to play so many jobs instead of just the festivals and different things.
Not only polkas.
Right.
Although that's the mainstream, but
oh yeah, polkas is the mainstream, and that's what we all want to do. But we do see that we get jobs playing. Well, the polkas go into the Oktoberfest. You're still playing the polkas.
Yeah.
I mean, you're incorporating some of the style of the October music also, but the polka is still there, But if you just see the crowd so different when it's an Oktoberfest.
Let's stay with the Maestro's men.
Yep.
And it took an act of God for you to start singing with the brass, even if it was only 5-6 songs, and we pushed you to do more. And now you're not a headliner, but you're very close to it. You sing a lot of great songs with the Maestro's men. Did you just feel you were ready to do that? Let's talk about that a little bit. Did Jackie or did Dennis say, "Hey, listen, I need a rest, and you do some singing"?
Well, Dennis started writing songs and said, "Rich, you're going to sing this one, and then you're going to sing that one," and that's how it all really got going for me. And and then Jackie would help me with cutting. Sometimes I would cut the words too short, and he would say, "Rich, you got to hold it out a little bit, this and that." So I would work at it, and finally I felt comfortable enough to start singing more songs. And harmony on certain keys, I'm very comfortable with now, and I can feel myself getting stronger and stronger doing different harmonies too. So yeah, I've come a long ways that way. I never thought I would be singing that much. Actually, I want to start doing a few more songs that I'm trying to write up now and to sing, taking them from different venues and
Good.
making them into a polka.
Good.
Yep, yep.
I remember back in the brass, I can't remember the details, but I can't remember as much as I used to, of course. But I remember you were bugging me that you had this song in your head. Was it a French song that was in your head and we made it? Was it Overnight or was it?
Overnight was a separate one, but there was another one, and I cannot remember.
Yeah, and I can't either, and that's why I wanted to bring it up.
No, I can't, Mitch. I really can't.
But it was a song that was
a French song.
Yeah, that was in your head, and I know we recorded something like it, but I can't remember which one it is.
Yeah.
You did write it out. But you see, maybe I should not have brought that up, but the point is that you've had some great hits with the brass. Overnight was sensational. You were the man on that one.
Well, yeah, but everybody, it was a great song, and I enjoyed playing it, and I'm glad I was able to, put it out there for us. But again, it was the fans. I mean, they really took to this song. We're going to make this song something. And the next thing I know, it was something.
Through your tenure with the brass or I don't think that you're drinking much these days. You never did.
No, I can't.
And I want to bring that up.
I can't. Because if I start drinking, I get sluggish and my shake, I can't get it the way I want it to be. I just rather not. I mean, I'll have a couple, but not to the point where I don't feel comfortable with myself.
And so I understand that. And we've, in the polka field, oftentimes we do to excess only because you don't know how to say no. Everybody wants to buy you a drink and so on. It's tough. And you were strong and doing well and very dedicated to your instrument as well as your field. I applaud you on that. Let's.
One thing I want to say, we were talking about one of my highlights, is again when Dick Pilla, when I was with him, he hired Myron Florin to come into Polkabration, and I had been with till maybe I was 19 about, I think, I'm around that age before we were with you and all that, and he says to me, Dick goes, listen, he says, we're going to have you come up and play a couple songs. I'm going to call you up, and you're going to do a couple songs with Myron Florin. And here I am saying, oh boy, I'll be all right, I think. And then I got on stage, and I was doing the lead part. And Myron Florin started doing this stuff behind me. The fills.
Yeah.
They were crazy. He made me sound like $1 million. It's like, wow, this ain't me. He's making me sound a lot better than I am. After we finished, I would say to myself, man, do I got a lot to learn, after listening to him. That was one of my big highlights, too.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
In more recent days, now you've got a lovely lady that you're with for many years. You met her when you were with the brass.
Yes, I did. Yeah, we were
A
good friends.
Staten Island girl.
Yeah, we were friends for a long, long time, and just happened that we got together.
Yeah, lovely gal,
Yeah.
and very supportive.
Very, very supportive. Yeah, I give her a lot to think about. Yeah.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
Let's, I don't know how long this interview has been going on, but it's been wonderful to chat with you. But let's just talk openly and see what else we can come up with. There's so many stories that I'd like to talk about, but we cannot talk about it on the air, especially with you, or you can't talk about it for one reason or another. Not that they were indecent or they're not apropos, but when you're younger, you're crazy and you do a lot of crazy things. But you've developed a recognition in the polka field, so much so that 2 years ago you were awarded the Leon Kazicki Award. At that point, the Leon Kazicki Award, and correct me if I'm wrong, was designated as a Sideman's Award.
It was. Yeah.
And you received that award, a very prestigious award, and then it dawned on someone that you should become a Hall of Famer as well. Now, in my opinion, I think Jackie may have suggested that, rewrote your biography. Let's talk about that. You're a Hall of Famer, a polka music Hall of Famer. How do you feel about that?
I still can't believe it, because of all the years playing, I never looked to get any kind of recognition like this. I just enjoyed playing polka music to make people happy, and I was very content with that, and that's all that mattered to me. And again, to get this award, this prestigious award,
Absolutely, I agree.
is
Honorable.
honorable. Is very so. Honorable.
Would you
And
say
unbelievable? I can't believe
yeah.
it. I still can't believe it. And I'm sitting here with you and talking.
many
about
others? There's many other Hall of Famers that feel the same way, Rick.
Yeah.
I call you Rick, but it's Rich.
Yeah.
But it's a feeling that you don't expect it. I know the feeling that you're going through, and it's an honorable position to be in. Not many individuals that you could meet would say that you're a Hall of Famer caliber, which is exactly what you are. You've developed, you've dedicated your time, you've become a national recognized figure on the accordion, and like most Hall of Famers, in my opinion, we are all humbled by the fact that we become Hall of Famers, and I'm sure that that's how you feel as well. But you deserve it, in my opinion. You're not as crazy as a lot of other guys. I should only speak for myself. You're not as crazy as I was. Now I'm an old man, of course, and I've settled down. But you've been true to the field, to the polka music. You're a Hall of Famer. And I happen to love, when I say that about you, that you are a Hall of Famer, it makes me proud that we associated with each other. We grew up together virtually in the field, and you mastered your instrument. All good things have happened. In my opinion, to summarize it, I think you've been blessed. I'm going to let you speak because I could speak on and on with adulation, but you finish up our interview with some good words.
Good words. I can only say that I am so glad that I've been able to give a little bit to this great field of polka music. That wraps it up. I mean, just that little bit that I've contributed, I'm honored, and I'm just happy to have done that. I never thought that would happen, that I would be in this kind of position. And
Again,
I mean, I'm with guys like you and Eddie and Marion Oh, and I never looked at myself like that, and I still don't. You know, you guys are a different breed.
Not really. We put our pants on just like you do.
I know.
But you have earned this, and that's what's important.
Thank you.
Takes a lot of dedication. And again, I'm going to bring it up. The modesty that a Hall of Famer has is typical. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
You know, there's very few Hall of Famers that actually wear it on their sleeve to say, hey, you know. And I know that that's not the type of person you are. And maybe that's why people love you, people have flocked to you, and your peers have recognized your dedication, your talent, your personality, you're warm, and you're a Hall of Famer. So be it, Rick.
So be it.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you, Mitch.
I love you, and
Thank you
thank
so
you for being a friend as well.
Oh, you're a true brother, and I love you.